Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We are your hosts. My name is Alondra. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at ICR, and it's my pleasure to host you today. We still have a few people joining, so I'm going to wait a few minutes before we kick it off. So just hang in there. Okay, so we have a few more people that have joined. Some familiar names. I assume some people are joining from all over the world. We at ICR are based in Iceland, so I'm joining today from Reykjavik. I would like to start by talking about the agenda and what we will be presenting today. My colleague is sharing the screen, so if we just wait a little bit. Okay, perfect. Okay. So today's agenda will be mostly two topics. So we are two companies co-hosting this event. We are ICR, the International Carbon Registry, and Guðmundur, our CEO, will be presenting today the methodology approval process. That will be at the beginning of our webinar. And then later on, Gesa will talk about the methodology overview. That would be the biggest part of our webinar today. And at the end, we will have 20 minutes when you will have time to submit your questions. Just to let you know how that will work, in your bottom right corner, you will see three icons: triangle, square, and circle. If you hover over, it says activity. So if you click on it, then you will be able to find the Q&A section. So just click there. You can start submitting your questions at the beginning, in the middle, as they come, and then at the end, we will be able to address them. So I'm going to start by introducing our speakers today. First, Guðmundur Sigurðsson, the CEO and founder of ICR. He founded the company in 2020. Today, ICR has almost 150 projects registered, and it was very recently endorsed by ICROA. And then we have Gesa Toth. He is the CEO and founder of Carbon Space, a carbon monitoring, reporting, and verification platform delivering high accuracy data to support the food, beverages, and nature-based solution sectors. He also holds a PhD in carbon development with increased food production. And yes, you will be able to receive this talk, what you will be seeing today, later, and the recording will also be available for anyone to see. The public consultation period started in January, and it will continue for 10 more days until the 15th of February. So now I would like to pass on the mic to Gudmundur.
Okay, thank you, Alondra. So I'm Guðmundur, founder and CEO of ICR, like Alondra mentioned. I will be covering just a short. I'll try to have a short overview of like methodologies in general and the methodology approval process, and covering like why we have methodologies and how we are trying to facilitate an efficient process from start to finish in developing methodologies. So a little bit about the ICR program. So many of you have already been working with us for some time now, know why we exist, but I will cover that in short. So we started this to tackle some barriers which we felt there were in the space for innovation. There's a cost revenue mismatch, lack of standardization, transparency issues, trust has been reduced, and the market is fragmented. How we do it, we try to increase transparency. We build on blockchain. We try to elevate how the projects and impacts are shared through our platform. Our documentation and our program is built on the trust chain that ISO standards bring, relying heavily on ISO standards. We welcome new roles of accountability. We work with insurance companies and ratings, and of course, VVPs, and also try to facilitate aligning cost with revenues. And like I covered, the centralized registry that is built on decentralized data, so all transactions can be audited because our database is on the blockchain. We want to be inclusive and make an impartial and subjective assessment. I'll be covering in short the methodologies and the methodology requirements and the approval process now. So a methodology is essentially a recipe, often described methodologies, recipes, is to be as it will deliver a consistent output of different projects that are comparable because they're following the same methodology. So they outlines the criteria and procedures on how to measure and calculate greenhouse gas emission reduction, removals, or enhancement for specific activities or projects. So it determines the baseline, how to monitor and report on GSGs, and ensuring that it's done systematically, reproducible, and it's verifiable. Methodologies are consistent in structure, as you would imagine. So, and they include scope, applicability, conditions, normative references to other methodologies that they are being that they rely on, or provide like the background definitions applied, and then it's about the baseline and the profit scenarios, how they are identified, the boundary, how the quantification is done, and of course additionality. Then how the parameters that are monitored and how monitoring shall be conducted. So, like I said, the methodologies are approach to determine the baseline monitoring emissions and the reporting, and to what it's about the carbon principles with guide, design, and implementation of project activities. So the carbon principles are then outlined in the requirements or the criteria for registration with different programs that are either in requirements of the program, or as like we do it, we stipulate that adherence to the ISO 14062 and the ICR requirements. And it's about how the project is described, how the GSG SSRs are identified for the baseline and the project, a determination of baseline, etc. And the application of a methodology is to ease up on the documentation of a project, safeguarding then the principles of relevance, completeness, consistency, accuracy, transparency, and conservativeness. Then about the process, so a little bit about the documentations that are relevant for the process, for the process would be that we have the requirements that the methodology need to adhere to. It's the ICR methodology requirements, ISO 40064-2 at the methodology level, not the project level. Then it's the procedures. We have the ICR methodology approval process, and to support, we have the ICR definitions. And for everything, there are templates, concept note template and methodology description template. Then I like process diagrams. So here you see the process. On the top, you see that it starts often with submission of a concept note for a methodology. We offer that as an optional part, which we then provide a review on, submitting that to identifying any rabbit holes that might be in line, and some language issues, how the structure should be guided when it enters into the methodology development. Then it's a methodology development. There's a third-party validation stipulated that the one of the VVPs that we work with, around 20 VVPs, needs to validate the methodology. And then a public consultation, which we are initiating now with the M ICR0009. This is starting earlier now, so we allow that to start prior to the validation. Then it's the ICR review, completeness review of the methodology and the validation report, and finally the board approval. So simultaneously or in parallel or in tandem to the methodology development, we have the developer needs to apply that methodology at the project level, so that needs to go through the project cycle. So for that, we have then the different templates, concept note template, methodology template, methodology validation template, PDD template, validation template, and then we have a template for the final summary page for the methodology after it's been registered. So just skipping through this is just about the structure of the methodology approval process and the methodology requirements. So we structured in a similar fashion as you would see with ISO standards, have scope, normative references, definitions. Then on the left, methodology approval process outlining what I just covered. Then methodology revision and reviews, and on the right, the requirements for the methodologies, summarizing the applicability, condition, boundary, baseless scenario, etc. So yeah, for then for further information about the methodology approval process, you can find on our documentation page under the methodology development. And if you have any questions, you can shoot up during the Q&A or reach out separately. So I think I have covered everything. So I think I'll give it back to Alondra to introduce the BESA presentation. And now I'll stop sharing.
Yes, thank you, Kumi. We are doing very well on time. We have not received any questions yet, so just as a reminder, you can do that by clicking on the three icons in the bottom right corner. We look forward to answering them at the end of the webinar. And yes, of course, now we want to hear from Gesa, who will tell us everything about the methodology.
Thank you, Alondra. Thank you, Gudmundur, and welcome everyone. It's a real pleasure to see so many people interested in the webinar and in the public consultation in itself. My name is Géza Tóth. I'm the CEO of Carbon Space. Before Carbon Space, I've been managing carbon and forest programs at consumer good manufacturer companies like Ferrero, Barry Callebaut, and many other chocolate companies, if you like. And as an agronomist and economist, it has been always a pleasure to work with all the challenges that you have with the food supply chains. But during the journey of this approach, I was often confronted with the investments in nature-based solutions, investment in the supply chains. And we realized that the carbon monitoring tools, carbon assessment tools are not able to tackle the challenges that is required for transparency. So this is why I actually moved over to a service provider 2-3 years ago. And after the short story that I just explained to you, would like to explain to you what actually dragged me to Carbon Space. I believe you see my screen now.
Yes, we see it.
So today would like to present to you our atmospheric carbon monitoring approach for land use management projects. First of all, a few words about Carbon Space. So Carbon Space is a digital monitoring, reporting, and verification company. We are headquartered in Ireland, have offices in Switzerland, US, and Malaysia, and in fact have a customer success representation in 16 countries. So we are a globally distributed team. Today we are 25 people in the team. And I can summarize our mission by explaining that Carbon Space leverages artificial intelligence and atmospheric measurements to develop the science required to deliver scalable, affordable, and accurate carbon intelligence for our customers. Our data empowers organizations to take informed and accountable climate action. So this is what got me first of all going when I was managing budgets of multi-million Swiss francs investments into agroforestry and restoration on behalf of customers. And I realized that the carbon assessment tools are not really able to provide the safeguards to the investors in nature-based solution or agriculture transformation projects. And that was because of the lack of accuracy, because of the lack of integrity of science into the methods, and of course heavy reliance on emission factors. So while I go on with this presentation, would like to point out what made Carbon Space an amazing team that consists of researchers, scientists, and developers, but also our network of intelligence that you see a few logos here of partners from the verification space, from atmospheric science space. And we have an approach that has been peer-reviewed and also third-party verified against ISO requirements, notably ISO 14064. And this is why we are here together with ICR, because we truly believe that the ISO approach with the relevant safeguards provided, also to additionality, permanence, and other requirements is the way to go. So we need efficient, scalable, and effective systems that can bring life to new carbon projects and improve the reputation, the business case of carbon projects. So after this introduction, would like to go straight into it. Carbon Space has 5 years of past. We monitored over 3.5 million hectares of land. We have over 70 active projects in more than 41 countries. I believe today is 42. And we work with corporate sector and nature-based solution projects. Just to give a few examples, beef and dairy, so grazing land, perennial crops, row crops, tree crops, and produce. Now, you may think that this is not relevant for nature-based solutions, but as we see the dynamics of policy development, we see that supply chain managers, the grower companies, are actively related to nature-based solution projects too. So whoever owns land has both the opportunity to produce food and sequester carbon by generating tradable offsets. And I will give a few examples to that too. Now, would like to explain what we actually do. And if I would like to simplify the narrative of the complex atmospheric MRV, what we do, we measure net ecosystem exchange. So instead of monitoring individual carbon pools, such as above ground biomass, below ground biomass, soil organic carbon, dead organic matter, and in fact, a few other carbon pools. So Carbon Space monitors net ecosystem exchange, an ecosystem level approach monitoring, and that entails the gross biogenic land CO2 removals and the emissions. So net ecosystem exchange is the sum of these two. And we measure at the ecosystem level because the atmospheric carbon pool takes into account all the impacts of the ecosystem. Now, this is very powerful because you understand that individual pool accounting is not the complete picture when you want to account for the positive impact of a carbon project, or you want to account for the baseline situation of the ecosystem. It's very hard to define a baseline of a carbon project based on the ecosystem state itself, what it has been before the atmospheric carbon pool assessments, and accordingly quite a few projects ran into reputation problems because of this. Why that? Well, basically, when you take individual pool accounting, you need to measure the soil above ground biomass, take an estimation on below ground biomass. And while you measure the individual pools separated, there are accuracy errors. And if you want to make up at the ecosystem level, you basically need to account for all of these pools together. On one hand, you may be missing out on some carbon sequestration or some emission because you take only limited number of pools. And of course, you're accumulating the errors. And in the cases of so land use projects, natural vegetation cover, this can be 50 to 150%. In the case of methane emission, it can be also above 300%. So this legacy approach accumulated errors can change. And this is how we are doing it at the Carbon Space. So as I mentioned, instead of taking separate data points across long periods of time, we measure the atmospheric carbon pool. And we measure uncertainty using statistical methods. We are aware of the weaknesses of the system. We are aware and we can quantify the uncertainty created by certain data gaps or lack of data. And we know how to complete that, how to improve the model over time. So basically, we have the ability to update historical measurements based on the best available data and evolving models, which cannot be said by allometric equation-based models or soil sample-based models, even if they are supported by machine learning. So to go a bit deeper in this methodology, I would like to explain what's at the core of the Carbon Space methodology. So there are, it consists of 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars are satellite observation, meteo data, and ecovariance ground stations. It starts with the collection of multispectral remote sensing data that is available at a daily base, often a 12-hour base. So we take daily diagnostics from multispectral remote sensing data like Landsat. But then we correlate this with the meteo data, which is a surface temperature, 1 meter above temperature, precipitation, solar radiation, and other data sets to basically improve the diagnostics of the ecosystem. And we correlate this learning. And you can imagine this is vast amount of data, taking data that is available at a granular level. And we do that with the help of machine learning. But then we correlate this with flux behaviors. And flux behaviors we get from eddy covariance ground stations. There are over 2,000 stations around the world from eddy covariance stations, and the number is increasing. We integrated several global and regional data sets of eddy covariance ground stations. They are at the heart of the methodology to calibrate the model that is providing net ecosystem exchange assessments. And by combining these three data stacks is what is at the core methodology. This is also what we use for the nature-based solution methodology that we proposed for ICR. For those of you who would like to go into much more detail about the methodology, how it was derived, the peer-reviewed publication is openly available. We will share the deck with you where it's clickable, and of course we are happy to send it to you along with further information. That could be also a white paper and specific methodology and descriptions. But today we talk about nature-based solutions and would like to explain what this means specifically for those realities where restoration, conservation activity, a change in ecosystem sequestration is the key. So basically we enhance carbon removal, and we need to understand what was the initial state, which can be a form of degradation. And it's very hard to measure degradation. One can build up assumptions and can derive a baseline of the status of the ecosystem, but we can actually measure that at a granular level, basically taking 9 points per hectare and provide a diagnostics over a historical period of time and capture the baseline condition based on a long, let's say a lot of data points from the history. So by that we have a net ecosystem baselining, and compared to that we can measure then the incremental change that was created by interventions. And these interventions can be planting trees, can be a rehabilitation activity, but it can then also include anthropogenic influences. So it can be a creation of an orchard where agrochemicals are used. It can be any kind of rehabilitation activity. It's important that the ecosystem level measurement for baselining is now possible. With other words, so these are the key features. The carbon is measured at the ecosystem level and eliminating the need for separate carbon pool accounting. That's a core benefit, and it comes not only with convenience or not missing out on some carbon pools, but also with efficiency and cost efficiency. For us is a remote first approach, so it's 100% remote assessment. We don't need to install flux towers project by project. The model has been calibrated with a set of towers, and it is integrating more towers about more land cover types. So remote first measurements mean no on-site visits are necessary, reducing cost to the end user. The model is instantly scalable, so digital MRV can be scaled to new project in an instant without months of preparation. We literally can receive the shapefiles with the correct land cover classification, and we can start the assessment. Last but not least, which is a game changer, and it is disrupting also some of the hindrances that was caused, that was present for previous carbon projects, because no on-site visits and samplings are necessary, the validation verification is much more efficient. And we have worked closely together with validation verification bodies on a number of projects, and it can be confirmed that the cost efficiency comes with this type of measurement. So peer review, a third-party verification against ISO principles, and the entire let's say project deliverables can be third-party verified, along with all the standard operating steps that we also presented for third-party verification for ISO. So this is already to develop project systems. So I only have a couple of case studies to show you, because I would like to showcase among the many projects, 70 plus projects that we have around the world, where this is applicable. And as Alondra explained, I have an attraction. I even made the PhD on carbon development with improved production of food. One project that we are very close with is a forest gardening on degraded land. This is a case study from Malaysia, where illegally deforested areas have been reforested with fast-growing tree species and food crops. So with the batai trees and the durian crop. And our net ecosystem exchange baselining provided a credible baseline for the state of the ecosystem before. And then we measured to what state the intervention led. So with the reversal of degradation, the sequestration improvements, and the production of food. Clearly, what you may see on this picture, this is a young plantation where it's an open shrub that happened after deforestation. You see the roads that are created regularly for typically for tropical deforestation. The trees started growing there. So we assessed what was the condition of this land in that particular state, and we estimated the condition not only at the project level, but pixel by pixel level. So at a 30-meter resolution, we can produce a heat map showing what is the level of degradation hectare by hectare and pixel by pixel. This is very powerful. So it's not only to have historical data, but to have granular historical data for each of the plots. I also want to show what this project looked like a bit later. So here you can see this is it's a almost closed shrub with a couple of trees remaining, but the deforestation did its job, and the natural succession is quite slow. But then here on the right side of the picture, you already see the batai trees growing really fast. I believe these are about 2.5 years old. And you may wonder how come trees are so tall. Well, that's how fast these trees can grow there. So it clearly shows this project that the natural process is taking place after deforestation, even in the tropics, are not as fast as enhancing it with the seedling planting. So huge trees, a lot of carbon was sequestered here. It's a replicable model, but I mentioned that there are also food crops produced. So here you see durian trees, a lot of manual work. It's a real community project. The project employs over 70 people. So there is a job creation element, there is socioeconomic development, and improved carbon sequestration. This project had an enormous simplification possible by using our methodology. I have 2 more examples before I open the floor for questions. Another one is a case study about the conversion of degraded land to orchards. As I mentioned, any land conversion is possible because after we start monitoring, you can account for harvests and biomass with a LCA approach or with any other accounting method. It is, even if it's no longer just net ecosystem exchange what to monitor, but there is a presence of anthropogenic activities, and we can correlate it. And in fact, we do that in-house at Carbon Space. So we have integrated Net Ecosystem Exchange into ISO 14040 certified LCA methodologies. Here you can see a snapshot of what our system looks like. It's a snapshot from our user interface. This is the previous condition of the land. These are annual this is the annual footprint chart. And then you see what happened after the land conversion. And here on the right side, you actually see in monthly data steps. Now you may be wondering, what are all the red bars? Well, so we are in the US, in a temperate zone, where in winter months emissions occur. So as I mentioned, Net Ecosystem Exchange is the sum of emissions and removals. You see that during winter months, there are some red bars, and during the high sequestration month, there are the green bars. That means emission CO2 is taken out of the atmosphere. So it's that granular that we can go. And in the future, we can also go for daily diagnostics, or we can upgrade to near real-time assessments when there is a demand on that. For the current carbon project, this is a huge improvement already, because it's not an annual, biannual, or every 5-year validation point. It can provide near real-time diagnostics. And we know from experience that carbon offset buyers really appreciate this type of transparency. It is a game changer, but also a 30 to 50% increase of the carbon credit value if the near real-time assessment is on top. Last but not least, it's an amazing project from mangrove restoration. Here you can also see the annual data as the somewhat degraded land mangrove areas did sequester some carbon, but after restoration, it was a boost. And this is in this is in the monthly data steps. Of course, we talk about Net Ecosystem Exchange fluxes. So even in the tropics, there are some peak months, some months when there is higher and lower sequestration correlated to temperature and rainfall mainly. So I would like to stop here. Thank you for attention, and I hope you have some questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Gesa. Great presentation. Great to see the case studies. Actually, it was super insightful to see the successful applications of the methodology. And we have been receiving a lot of questions in the meantime. People can see them there. So I'm going to start by addressing one question that was actually repeated 3 times. First of all, about the recording. Yes, the recording will be publicly available in a few days. We will post it on our YouTube channel, and we will also send it to you along with the deck from this presentation. So that has been answered. And then I'm just going to start by first come, first serve. First question comes from Ellen Young, and it says, how can people use NEE for reporting?
Thanks, Ellen, for the question. Well, due to the third-party verification against ISO 14064, the methodology is in accordance to the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and SBTi requirements. Most of our customers are corporate clients who use the data exactly for this. So it's not only that we are accepted by SBTi and Greenhouse Gas Protocol, we integrated the verification part in our reports and disclosures. So by the time the supply chain customers receive our data, it comes with a third-party verification, which is in full compliance to reporting requirements as far as industry standards are considered. On top, you can put a project level ISO certification, which many customers do, and AA 1000 AS assurance statement. So many examples exist.
Okay, great. Guðmundur.
Can I address one?
Yes.
So the methodology is not only about the NEE, it's also about other elements that needs to be adhered to, like I've covered in my presentation. For example, the reporting part of the of a project. So it covers more than just the NEE.
Okay, fantastic. Then the next question is from an anonymous source, and it's asking about any potential risks of using NEE or downsides.
Yes, NEE is suitable for some purposes and may not be suitable for other purposes. We often get the question, can you measure the impact of biochar? What is the soil organic carbon? But we are only interested in the soil carbon pool. So we cannot do individual pool accounting. We do ecosystem level accounting. It's comprehensive, but it would take an additional methodology to split out a pool from net ecosystem exchange and would increase the uncertainty. So there we try not to do. It is possible, but it would downgrade the accuracy that we may have. There are, of course, other applications where above ground biomass is needed, like the forestry sector wants to see clear correlation with carbon stock assessment. And we don't assess the actual carbon stock, we assess the change of that carbon stock over time. So it's a flow carbon accounting, carbon stock change accounting. There, it may pose a limitation for those who need carbon stock. From the top of my head, these could be potential downsides. And there are some regions in the world, like the African continent, there's a flux tower scarcity. There are some crops and land cover types where there is a flux tower scarcity, which we solve with a value proposition where we, together with our partners, systematically install flux towers. So we are involved in flux tower installation projects to tackle this. But it's true that on the northern hemisphere, there are more towers than in the global south.
Thank you for addressing that so directly and transparently. Now, Carlos Bueno would like to know what is the precision of the estimation in terms of concentration change that can be reported?
So first of all, the accuracy can be calculated, but it's different case by case and project by project. It is possible. The way the model is set up, it's possible to calculate uncertainty and disclose the uncertainty with the reports, along with the reports. It is our goal that in the future we will have all disclosures will come with an uncertainty assessment, because uncertainty is different region by region and case by case. I can't give an example because it may be not relevant for one or the other land cover type. We can calculate root mean square error at a monthly or annual basis. And if the commenter or the person who has the question would like to keep in touch with us with a specific question, then we can elaborate on that together with the R&D team. And that's a message, of course, for all of you. Should any of the question not be answered today or is more specific, please send us an email.
Yes,
and
that's
then of course addressing that this is a public consultation. So if there's any comments or any feedback on the application of the methodology, so please participate in the consultation.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, you can find the public consultation when you go on the ICR website, carbonregistry.com. You navigate on the top to ICR program, and then you will see the public consultation. So you can read the documentation and submit your feedback. There you will also find an email if you want to ask questions. We do have a lot of questions to address and only 15 minutes left. So it's possible we don't have time to respond to all of your questions. Would you like to show Gudmundur where to find it on the website?
Yeah, just showing where to find the public consultation. So you go to the direct to the ICR program documentation, then you find the public consultation, go to 2025, then you will find the ICR09 public consultation. And because there's a screenshot, if you scroll to the bottom, you find all the information on how to participate.
Exactly. Okay, so having said that, we have an anonymous question asking about if you need ground stations / hardware in order to monitor carbon.
We don't need to carry out calculations. As I mentioned, the model is functional and it's operational without hardware installation on the project. We, of course, have a R&D roadmap, and we continue improving the methodology by integrating also new categories of satellite data, radar, hyperspectral satellite imagery, more flux towers on the ground. Tech development and sensory technology is developing with the speed of light. So we expect that this will change in the future, and our methodology is designed in a way to integrate and absorb the new information available as it appears.
Great. We did get a question about, it says, if it's a public consultation, should you not require to answer all the questions in public? So this is not the public consultation. This is a webinar to address the public consultation and provide more context. The actual public consultation happens on the website, and it has a formal channel to submit your feedback. So, of course, that will be published after the period is finished. So after February 15, all the comments received will be addressed and made public. So this is the webinar and not the public consultation. We are trying to do our best to address all the questions. So the next one is also anonymous and is asking about large-scale projects, so more than 10,000 hectares. The person is asking, do you need how many eddy covariance stations, which ultimately can affect the project's cost? How is this considered? The footprint of each station, is it critical there?
And that's related to the large-scale projects, right?
Yes,
that's the same
more
question.
than 10,000 hectares.
Sure. So we have projects from 2 hectares to 300,000 hectares. So there is the size limitation is more on the lower end, because today it needs to be 1 hectare and larger. But we do work on the landscape level and soon at the country level. The country level complexity is always there is agricultural, forestry, urban landscape, and other land use categories. Some has a better global flux tower coverage, others not. So that's a careful assessment of layer by layer, basically IGBP land use class specific layer by layer, how good the calculations can be. Normally in the temperate zones, most IGBP land use classes we can tackle, and with others we can also tackle, but there is a higher uncertainty. So at a large landscape level, from our experience, it is a more thorough assessment that needs to be done. And we, in the feasibility phase, can point to the existing flux tower coverage. There is where the model may have some uncertainty issues, or let's say where the accuracy is higher, where the accuracy is lower. And then depending on the project budget or so, or depending on who is behind these large scale projects, we recommend the installation of additional towers, which is usually a much bigger collaboration, especially at the country level, landscape level. There could be multiple buyers of that raw material, or of course, multiple stakeholders from the ministry to innovation centers. But we have a systemic approach that we worked out with our partners, especially on the sensory tech provider side.
Thank you for that. The next question comes from Andreas Spur, and it's asking to elaborate on the sensitivity and accuracy of the carbon space approach, especially for restoration projects with a small NEE flux, very little photosynthesis.
Mm-hmm. I give it a go, and then perhaps I invite some of my colleagues. Maybe Robert, you can elaborate on that. So if I understand the question correctly, is where the incremental change is not that drastic, like I showed in the case of the buttai fast-growing tree species. So where the change in the ecosystem is minor, but the volume of the change or the velocity of the change, it doesn't matter. Sometimes we measure conservation, sometimes degradation, sometimes an improvement. How is the sensitivity? How much of a change we can pick up? It depends on many factors. Robert, how would you go about it? Is it something we can quantify right now? And if we would like to quantify, how would we go about that?
I mean, I think in this kind of case, it is possible that if we have an area with very little photosynthesis, that the changes that you might observe, if they're small, will lie within the estimation error of our methodology. So it may be hard to detect them purely with the remote sensing estimation approach. In those types of cases, I think the recommendation would be for an installation of a tower at that location in order to more precisely measure small changes. But our method is continually improving. We seek to be able to continually improve the accuracy and reduce the errors in our methodology. So this is the case right now. Maybe in a few years, we'll have a much less reliance on local tower installation to detect small changes.
Okay.
9 more minutes. That could be a lot of questions.
Yeah, that could be a lot of questions. So we do have a question about comparison with other standards. So the question is anonymous and wants to know, is the system meeting the precision level required for VCS, gold standard, etc.?
The question is if you compare apples with apples or apples with a banana. Currently, other systems don't consider, let's say other standards don't consider ecosystem level accounting or atmospheric measurements. We have been in close touch since the last 2-3 years with Vera Gold Standard, Plan Vivo, and others. We offered our methodology. I think so. Positive response was there that a peer-reviewed methodology, a well put together ISO certified, ISO verified methodology is in line with expectation, but there is no plans in the near term to account for ecosystem level carbon pools. So I would say it's simply not possible to compare because the other standards don't consider the opportunity in ecosystem level carbon pool accounting, rather above ground biomass soil, or maybe ecosystem level accounting by the combination of the pools, which, as I mentioned before, results in accumulated errors, in our opinion. I think there was a feedback on this question. Perhaps you could read it up because I don't see. It was the very last comment.
Are you asking me to read that one?
I think, yeah, just 1 second ago, something popped up, which I think was a response to what I said. Perhaps you can address it.
So I see a question here. It's not about apples and bananas. It's about the level error or accuracy. Are you meeting a 5% accuracy, or do your methods have higher reserves to take into account?
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I'm really curious which methods out there would meet the 5% accuracy. It's something nice to talk about, but our experience is that the accuracy issues are much bigger than that. It depends case by case. With the world's highest precision climate tech technology, which is at ecovariance stations, such accuracy is possible. The model has integrated hundreds of those towers. Ultimately, such accuracy is possible, but our aim is to disrupt the current inaccuracies and aiming at the highest accuracy. In my take, and I'm the manager So Robert, Vitaly, feel free to chip in. A 5% accuracy is a very good target, but I don't think there are viable examples for that.
Perfect. I see some thumbs up. So if nothing else to add, William Butterly in Ireland would like to know if the methodology will have any alignment with the upcoming EU certificate on carbon removal.
Yes, 100%. We have very strong ties with the EU mechanisms and the relevant working groups, and we expect to be part of this working group through our high-profile advisors too. So we have a seat both in the EU and the UNFCCC working groups, where the upcoming discussions and legislations about the MRV and the MRV qualities will be there. We hope to be influencing active contributors there. So we will see as it goes, and as soon as there is development. So our plan is to influence and integrate with those requirements.
Fantastic. Very good. The next question comes from Michael and is asking, what cases of raw crops do you have?
In terms of row crops, there is quite good experience from corn, wheat, oats, vegetables. We monitored fluxes on the next. We probably have most experience at a global level with industrial hemp, and I think some sunflower, rapeseed oil too. I think there is a longer list. So we measure this in the US, in Europe, Austria, Switzerland, Germany. There are many row crops. There are different challenges because of crop rotation and how to account for carbon, but that's and that's of course not related perhaps to today's discussion about nature-based solution methodology. But happy to deep dive into it if the person is interested in a row crop value proposition.
Great. The next question comes from Said Talay and is asking, do you plan to step into other CBR technologies such as CDR, ERW, and BECCS? As far as I know, there is interest by VCM to implement these technologies.
I'm not sure if so other carbon dioxide removal technologies, if I interpret the abbreviations. Well, our core interest is to support and to support the transition to atmospheric carbon measurements, and lead the way along with our partners in the transition to atmospheric measurements where this is necessary. In terms of new tech integration, we see, as I mentioned, on the satellite side, or let's say remote sensing side, where we can integrate. Certainly, the meteor data is going to improve over time, but understanding the fluxes is key. If you would need to divert away to this because of individual pool accounting, or using like LiDAR technology that has a very high precision in carbon stock assessment, it is not our goal. We are very happy to do benchmarking studies and do correlations, but our ultimate goal is to provide granular real-time measurements and most accurate measurements about CO2 that actually is in the air.
Great. And we are running out of time. So I wanted to address one last question, which is very short, coming from Maurice. He's asking if you are going to present at the European Carbon Farming Summit in Dublin.
Dublin. Yes, most likely. So we will be there.
Fantastic. So yeah, you can address all the questions that were left here. There was a lot happening. We tried our best to answer, but the time has run out. I would like to ask Guess and Gudmundur if there's something you want to add.
I would like to just add one thing, and then I give back to you, Gudmundur, as you started. So I think it's appropriate that you finish too. I just want to say thanks to a few people. Thanks for the scientific community who reviewed and was critical throughout the process in the past few years. The customers, many customers have provided information for piloting and providing the use cases. Certainly ICR for the review and organizing this, and all the commenters who provided all these questions. Again, if any questions were not addressed today, the public consultation process is still up. And last but not least, our fabulous carbon space team, everybody who was working on this. So let's continue.
All right.
Back to you.
Nice way to close this, Cesar. Yes, just reminding about the public consultation. So iterating, this is not a public consultation, just a webinar. Public consultation is ongoing. So please share with us any feedback on the comments on the methodology. And like with the carbon space team, it's been an honor and privilege to work with you on this. And it's like highlighting what we have been trying to achieve is to allow for innovation in the space. So back to you, Alondra.
Thank you, Gudmundur. Yes, we just got a shout out. ICR, the most progressive registry. Okay, we like that. So we believe that integrity and innovation can go hand in hand. And with that message, I would like to thank you everyone for joining us, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks.